Hey, Leonard, welcome back to the Emily Show. This week we have a lot of Nancy Guthrie updates. This is a story that continues to move in, spurts and stops. And so many of you were so incredibly kind about how much you appreciated just getting to what the facts were as we had them in last week's episode. That's the goal here again. In this week's episode, I'm recording on Sunday, February 15th, and we have a new video and a lot of new updates. And then there was a lot of not updates to parse through. So I don't know, maybe we need another docket item. We have a criminal docket, we have a civil docket, we have a pop culture docket. We might just need a fuckery docket. We might need a fuckery docket of just a bucket all of the things that are just not true. But if you were following this story over the weekend, you know that it was a wild weekend looking at this case. And if you weren't, I've got you covered on just the things that we know. And we are going to pop culture docket a little at the end of the episode today, because there's an Olympic scandal that I want to talk about. And we're talking about it today. We are. The Guthrie case is a heavy case. We have a lot of updates, but we also have an Olympic scandal brewing that I'm kind of obsessed with. And we're going to talk about it because it's the Emily Show and I can. So Leonard, let's get into it. I'm legal analyst Emily D. Baker. Yes, also a lawyer. And this is the Emily Show. I break down the pop culture, entertainment, and high profile cases that we're all talking about. I know you want the facts, so let's get into it. First, I have to say how much I appreciate all of your kind comments on last week's show. Leonards, you are the best. Thank you for A, totally understanding what we do here, and B, being down for it, because breaking down timelines of stories that continue to shift and aren't in court yet is not what we always do here. It is one of those things that takes a lot of time and effort, because parsing through what's known in this case and what's not known and what's been said and what hasn't been said has been incredibly difficult. Are you as frustrated as I am? You might be. I am incredibly frustrated. I don't blame you if you are incredibly frustrated, because part of the problem here, and I am not always going to be critical of, sheriff's offices that are doing their best, but I have some feedback. When the updates are day after day after day after day of the sheriff's department in Pima County putting out no press conferences planned at this time, any updates, there will be a press conference. And then on Friday, February 13th, the sheriff decided to go on some kind of a press blitz, but didn't just release one statement, so gave multiple interviews. Don't worry, I'm going to link them all below. We're going to look at a part of one of them and I'll give you a summary, but multiple interviews. But then he's saying things differently in different interviews and the questions are asked slightly differently, and it just leads to confusion. If you are going to put out a statement to the media, put out a statement. If you are going to answer questions from the media, just have a press conference. But it was so strange to me to see interview after interview. It was like exclusive interview. There were like 7 of them with all different media outlets. Okay, well, none of those are exclusive, because it seemed that he just brought people in like to his office every 15 minutes. And then you have different outlets asking slightly different questions that get slightly different answers, which just leads to confusion when so much information coming out has been trickling out and has not been easy. We have seen other investigations where there haven't been press conferences frequently, but generally they update the media at the end of the day or every couple of days via email. This is the status of the investigation. This is the update, what have you. That's not happening here. And I think it is just making things worse. It has created a vacuum of known facts in this case, and it is sucking in a whole lot of speculation and stuff that's not true. It has created a void that is just pulling things towards it like a black hole. And that is not an ideal situation, I imagine, for law enforcement, for the family, and for anyone who wants to know what is true and what is not true beyond wild headlines in this case. And then it got worse on Friday. If you were following this case on Friday, there was so much confusion in the way that the sheriff's department communicated things. And the sheriff's department had communicated to the media that there was a media staging area and that the public information officer, or the PIO, would be out to the location. And so media went to that location. I have a thought about that, but media went to that location and then nothing. And then it was we're releasing a written statement. A written statement was never in fact released, but then it was, we're releasing a written statement. Then there was very clearly SWAT and law enforcement activity. Then there were individuals detained. Then there was a traffic stop. And then there was the wildest turn of rampant speculation online that I've seen in a minute. And the sheriff's department, instead of the written statement, came out and was like, no, that's not the person whose house it is. And it was such a cluster. And I don't know if the sheriff's office told the media that there was a staging area with the public information officer, which seemed like there was going to be a press conference or at least a statement of some kind to get them out of the way so that they could go do whatever SWAT activity they were doing. I don't know if it was a diversion, but it created just a cluster. I don't know. Friday was wild watching the scrambling in this case. But as we look through the updated timeline of what we know, as we look back at what happened last week and what's happened over the weekend, I'm here to, well, Emily, all you've done is complain so far. Yes, complain about the lack of consistent, reliable information coming from those involved in the investigation. It has created more problems. And the frustration that it seems the sheriff's department is having with the reporting is in part because this vacuum has been created. It has left a lot of doors open for rampant speculation. And it has, I think, created a lot of frustration, for myself included, for trying to find what is a known fact, what is not a known fact, the status of the investigation, and what even is happening anyway. So my goal today is to A, share that frustration, and then B, go through with you everything I have parsed out of what is known at this time, and then where we go from here. Because there is one thing that the media has largely been critical of the sheriff of that I don't have critique on. So when we talk about DNA, because yes, we're going to be talking about DNA. When we talk about DNA, we're going to talk about it because I don't have issues that some other folks have with some of the stuff going down with DNA in this case. But yes, we're going to be talking about DNA today because that's one of the updates. But first, we're going to go to Savannah Guthrie's latest video. This was released not that long ago as I am recording on Sunday, February 15th. And again, a different tone than some of her other videos. And it seems to me that she is speaking directly to whomever may have her mother. Her last video that we talked about, she was speaking to the public. Please, any information you have. And again, I will link the FBI tip line down below and tips.fbi.gov if you want to send in tips via web instead of trying to call. But this has a different tone. And it seems as if she's talking to whomever may have her mother, asking them to do the right thing. Let's take a look.
I wanted to come on and it's been 2 weeks since our mom was taken, and I just wanted to come on and say that we still have hope and we still believe. And I wanted to say to whoever has her or knows where she is that it's never too late. And you're not lost or alone. And it is never too late to do the right thing. And we are here. And we believe. And we believe in the essential goodness of every human being. And it's never too late.
And in that Instagram video, different than some of the others we've seen, Savannah Guthrie is sitting outside. It looks that she's sitting crisscross on the ground and is talking at times just directly into the lens, seemingly to the person who might have her mother and asking them to do the right thing. And it's how she titled her video as well. It's never too late to do the right thing, bring her home. And not talking about ransom, not talking about notes, but also saying we're here. And I imagine that for the family looking at what a roller coaster this investigation was over the weekend, it's got to be incredibly frustrating, but also indicating that they still have hope and talking directly to the individual or individuals that might have her mother. You're not lost, and it's never too late to do the right thing. She also doesn't appear to be reading off of anything, doesn't appear with her siblings, is just speaking, at least it seems to me, from the heart to whomever might have her mom and reminding them it's never too late. And after this weekend, we are waiting on new information from the FBI. Remember, last week on Tuesday, February 10th, we saw the FBI release on social media numerous photos and videos recovered from Nancy Guthrie's Nest camera. Remember, the sheriff's department had said that the device was taken, that they didn't have a cloud subscription, and so there was no way to get that video. That was released by the sheriff early on. And then it seems that when the FBI came into the case, somebody went back to Nest and was like, can you not really find anything? And lo and behold, they were able to recover that. In the days since they have gone and asked neighbors, and I imagine also Google Nest, for videos from other dates going back into earlier in January. So they are asking neighbors, and I imagine the company, probably via subpoena at this point, for video relating to a couple other dates. And we're going to take a look together at just a few of those videos real quick, because they do factor in to what's going on today, waiting for DNA from the FBI. The videos we are looking at don't have sound. These are the videos from the FBI of the suspect walking up to the Ring camera with a gloved hand, seemingly trying to cover the camera with the gloved hand before the individual turns around and walks away back through the archway, is, looking around, then grabs that handful of plant and then tries to cover up the Ring camera with the plant. The FBI did release that video of the subject holding plant matter up to the camera and holding a flashlight in the mouth and then trying to cover up the camera with that plant material. And I suspect they were doing that so that they could take the camera off using both hands. We also have the video of the subject first walking up to the property with flashlight turned on, looking down. And then when we are looking at this still shot of the suspect putting their gloved hand up near the Ring camera, that gloved hand is being reported about quite a lot on Sunday, February 15th, because the sheriff confirmed that a glove was recovered about 2 miles away from the Guthrie home and that a DNA profile was able to be taken from the glove. And we have reports on Sunday that the FBI said that the glove that they have matches the type of glove seen in the video. The headlines on this reporting are an absolute mess. A lot of the headlines on this reporting seem to indicate that the DNA recovered matches the suspect in the video. That's not accurate. The type of glove in the video matches, they say, the glove that was recovered and that a DNA profile was taken from. But they were able to get a DNA profile. That means the FBI is going to put that profile in CODIS and see if they can come back with any hits, but that is going to take time. And as we are talking about the DNA, we can take a look at what the sheriff had to say about gloves being recovered and DNA and the lab that DNA went out to. I will say, when it comes to the DNA, there has been a lot of fuss about Pima County sheriffs, who are still the lead on this investigation. This is not an FBI investigation. The FBI is assisting Pima County sheriffs. About Pima County sending the DNA to the lab that they regularly use and not sending it to the FBI's lab. Emily, you've said FBI 17 times.
The FBI!
They didn't send it to the FBI lab. They had already sent numerous DNA profiles, including known profiles of Nancy Guthrie, family members, and had been sending DNA profiles of those that were regularly interacting with Nancy Guthrie or her home, people who took care of the home, the pool, the yard, any home health care, those types of DNA profiles. And for those of you that watched the extensive DNA testimony in the Karen Reed case, and you saw how many individuals from the lab had to come testify to lay foundation for everything. Now imagine doing that with multiple labs. Sending everything to one lab keeps everything easier down the road if this goes to court, if someone is eventually arrested, if someone is eventually charged, and if this ever sees the inside of a courtroom, the amount of individuals that you need to bring in, if it goes to trial, simplifies if you have one lab doing all these comparisons versus multiple labs doing all these comparisons. Also, what we saw in the Kohberger case was once somebody was arrested, trying to get evidence to turn over in court from the feds as a state agency was challenging. But also using the Kohberger case as an example, because we are hearing that they believe this is a similar glove that they believe is related to Nancy Guthrie's case, and they were able to obtain a DNA profile from that glove, like the Kohberger case, they had recovered an unknown male DNA profile in the Kohberger case, and then they worked on the IgG, the investigative genetic genealogy DNA. There were a lot of hearings about that as well. But once they started going down the road of the familial DNA or the genetic genealogy DNA, then they were able to narrow it down more. And then remember, they went and grabbed the trash where they knew Kohberger was and then created a profile from the trash, and it was his dad's profile. And then they arrested him and then they confirmed him to the profile. Once you have a profile, there is a lot more that they can do. A CODIS hit is much faster than having to go investigate and develop IgG DNA. But that doesn't mean it can't happen in this case too, if this glove is connected. This becomes a little more tenuous from court because this was recovered days, weeks after the investigation began, 2 miles away from the location. Gloves are gloves. The sheriff said that numerous gloves were recovered in their searches and that they believe a lot of those gloves were gloves from searchers, which raises the question to me, are y'all just like ditching gloves out in the desert? It makes absolutely no sense to me that those doing a grid search would just take off gloves and like leave them on the ground. I don't understand. But when we are looking at potential problems, we have a glove 2 miles away from a suspected crime scene. How much later? Because the exact day that the glove was recovered seems to be around February 10th, 11th, 12th. So you have a substantial amount of time that has passed. You have distance. And so there will be some challenges with connecting this glove to the crime scene, even if it does appear to be the same glove in the photos and video. Because if it is just a black glove like you would wear to dye your hair or, whatever else, it's going to be difficult to prove that they are connected with the amount of distance and time. And the distance and time are truly my bigger concerns than whether a DNA profile is done by the lab that they regularly use or by the FBI in Quantico. Like, that's my bigger concern. And before we go to what the sheriff had to say as part of the media blitz on Friday, February 13th, we have some other updates because I did take all of those interviews and distilled kind of the key points out of them to put into a little bit more of a timeline that will add to what we talked about last episode. It was confirmed by the sheriff in the past week that DNA had been recovered that did not match to Nancy Guthrie or known family members. So there is DNA from inside the house that is not hers, not family members. However, there was a lot of reporting that a glove was recovered from inside the house, and the sheriff has said expressly that that was not true, that there was no glove recovered from inside the house. And then over the last week, we also saw a Rio Rico search, and we learned later this weekend that that search was conducted as part of a search warrant on an individual who was detained and questioned, and media, including Brian N., had been out and interviewed him and interviewed his mother-in-law, but the law enforcement agencies did not release a name. That individual said that they had been driving in the area, that they do deliveries regularly. Remember, we talked about there probably being cell phone dumps in the area, but they did get enough to get a search warrant. They detained and questioned the individual and then released them. And that happened again late on Friday, February 13th. And on Friday, February 13th, there were also search warrants served, a vehicle taken and processed, and individuals detained and questioned, both at a residence and as part of the vehicle stop. And law enforcement did confirm that that all related to the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. What needs to be pointed out is that even though search warrants were issued, there have been no arrests. But the fact that search warrants have been issued is interesting to me. These are not just consent searches, which means there has to be enough to establish probable cause. If there isn't enough to establish probable cause, it's going to be a huge problem. And that would be surprising. But we know that the search warrant on the 13th was done by the feds. And that means a federal judge or federal magistrate would have to sign off on probable cause. So there would have to be something more than just a cell phone number and a cell phone dump. That's not sufficient. Your cell phone pinging in an area around a particular time frame is not going to be enough for a judge to sign off on probable cause. But because this is an ongoing investigation, those are all going to be sealed. Remember how much we learned in the Koberger case when we saw that first probable cause affidavit that was filed. So when we get to the point that we see what was in these probable cause affidavits, I will be very interested. But individuals were detained. No one was arrested. And in the numerous interviews the sheriff has done, the sheriff indicated that releasing the photos and videos that we have been talking about did garner thousands of new tips, and said within the first few hours generated up to 5,000 additional tips, and said that until this point, there have been now tens of thousands of tips coming in to the sheriffs and to the FBI. And on February 12th, the FBI released additional information, including a general suspect description, more information on the backpack seen in the video, and increased the reward for any information to $100,000. Let's take a look at that. This is released from the FBI Phoenix on February 12th and reads, quote, "Today, the FBI is increasing its reward up to $100,000 for information leading to the location of Nancy Guthrie and or the arrest and conviction of anyone involved in her disappearance. New identifying details about the suspect in the kidnapping of Nancy Guthrie have been confirmed after a forensic analysis of the doorbell camera footage by the FBI's Operational Technology Division." I told you they were going to use the archway to figure out somebody's height. 100%. The suspect is described as a male, approximately 5'9" to 5'10" inches tall, with an average build. In the video, he is wearing a black 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker backpack. We hope this updated description will help concentrate the public tips we are receiving. Since February 1st, 2026, the FBI has collected over 13,000 tips from the public related to this case. Every tip is reviewed for credibility, relevance, and information that can be acted upon by law enforcement. Threat intake examiners at the National Threat Operations Center and FBI personnel are supporting a 24-hour command post in which dozens of agents and investigators are assigned leads and tips to action each shift. Media outlets should direct tips they receive to the FBI. Additionally, we do not comment on tips and information we receive regarding ongoing investigations. Continue to submit information to the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or tips.fbi.gov to help us bring Nancy home. And then they release multiple photos of the Ozark Trail backpack, and then they have the night vision, or one of the night vision photos of the suspect wearing that backpack. And I'm just going through the photos that they released. Remember, the video that we have looked at is in night vision, but you can see the reflective parts on the backpack that give you kind of a general location of how the strap would be on the person's shoulder. Then they show, again, seeing where those reflectors are kind of towards the top of the shoulder in the photo. and then the backpack straps, again, in that night vision view. And in that media blitz day, Sheriff Nanos did give some updated information. Again, my criticism of that is instead of just giving one statement, it was interview after interview after interview. And so there was slight variances of the information that was provided in any given interview, but generally updated everyone on the amount of leads that were received, that the Sheriff's Department and the FBI are working well together, and a lot of discussion about criticism over the DNA being sent to the lab that the Sheriff's Department uses versus the lab that the FBI uses. And again, my thoughts on that are it makes it easier if this goes to trial. So I'm not as worried about that aspect of it. But one of the things he talked about in the interview that definitely caught my attention and the attention of others is how long this investigation may go on for. So let's take a look at a bit of what Sheriff Nanos said in this interview with 12 News. Lawnard, we have to talk real quick about today's sponsor, Jones Road Beauty, because first you're going to ask me what lippy I'm wearing, and it is the Jones Road Color Gloss, which I love, in Rose Idol. It's not the only thing I'm wearing from Jones Road today, because you know how much I love how simple these products are, and even though they make amazing brushes, everything I use from Jones Road you can use with your fingers, which I love. The products from Jones Road are made with ingredients that are good for your skin, and they all work together effortlessly. This winter, I have been obsessed with the Jones Road Miracle Balm because it is beautiful after moisturizer if I'm wearing makeup, or if not, to just give your skin a dewy, not sticky glow. Absolutely love, 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 love. And Jones Road just launched an eyeshadow stick that I can't wait to get my hands on. It is a creamy, high pigment eyeshadow stick that just blends on with your fingers, which we love. And it's launching in 8 universal matte neutral shades. Jones Road is modern day makeup that's clean, strategic, and multifunctional for effortless routines, which you know I love. And for a limited time, Lawnards will get a free shimmer face oil on their first purchase when you use code EDB at checkout. So just head to jonesroadbeauty.com and use code EDB at checkout to get your free shimmer face oil for a limited time. And if they ask how you heard about them, let them know it was The Emily Show. Let's get back to it.
Sheriff, I just want to first, we can start with that if you want. I wasn't going to, but we can. What do you want to say to, how do you respond to this report that says that you are not working with the FBI and holding back evidence?
I've said from the beginning, and actually even at our last press conference, the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Department are connected at the hip. That has not changed. Decisions are made sometimes with a good discussion about why things need to go one way or the other.
Okay.
In this instance, it really was about, and it's not just this. We're going to use a judge for a search warrant. Do we do a federal judge or do we do a state judge? We have a discussion. What's the best way to do that? And the decisions are made. They're really not my decisions. They are our team's decisions. They get together and they talk about what they think is best. In this case of blocking evidence from the FBI, that's just so far from the truth.
There is a lot of discussion in this interview about working with the FBI and blocking evidence from the FBI. I don't know if he was frustrated with the headlines, but again, you can just hold a joint press conference with who?
The FBI!
He continues on talking about how many members of law enforcement are working on this case.
So you're basically saying this is maybe one person that had a problem with it, but you feel like...
You know, you got 400 officers out there working together. They're not
Quite
always
a
going to
large
see eye
law
to eye.
enforcement
Some of them are
presence.
going to think, and they may be right.
A lot of people working on this.
But somewhere at a certain level, those discussions are had, and we weigh it out, and we go. We keep going.
After much extensive discussion about how he's working well with the FBI and how everybody is getting along, they do ask about the gloves that we were just talking about.
Okay, I'm going to ask you about those gloves. You said how many gloves were found?
I can't give you the numbers, but we found the first pair, I think, was a search team that went out, FBI, deputies, everybody, about 2 miles away. There's been some reporting that there was a glove in that. That is no.
There's no glove in the house.
Never was found a glove in that house.
Okay.
He didn't even finish the sentence, but did clarify that there was no glove found in the house. But 2 miles away.
Was there a glove found closer to the property?
2 miles away is the closest we have.
And that's one pair of gloves.
One pair of gloves, I believe.
Is there another pair of gloves?
I don't think it's a pair of gloves. All the reporting I have seen is that it was a singular glove, not a pair of gloves. And in some of the other statements, he talks about it being one glove, which is the problem with giving multiple different statements to multiple individuals.
There's a lot of gloves.
How many gloves?
We go out 5-10 miles, and as you expand that search, and let me say this, that's a lead we got. And we went in with that lead. I don't want to tell somebody, well, don't call us if it's 2.5 miles. We have to go and gather it all. And now it's really growing.
So, Emily, what do we take from that? That was on a tip. That they did not find a glove in their searching. They found a glove because somebody called in a tip. It could be something else. When he says a lead, it could come from one of the other searches. Yes, sure. But it's not something that law enforcement came across first. It came to them through another avenue, which adds complexity to something found not super close in time, not super close in location, and not firsthand by law enforcement. It came to them through, he's saying, a lead.
But that's part of investigations like this. So you go and you get them, and then you prioritize. Well, this one's about 10 miles away.
Yeah.
Maybe we can hold off on that. Let's do the one that's 1 or 2 miles away. That kind of thinking. But that's all that is.
I mean, my thinking would be, is it on a main road? It is on a main road leading away from Nancy Guthrie's house, and would it be easy to yeet, or is that out in the middle of nowhere where somebody's not going to be there with an 84-year-old woman? I have more questions.
It's about all the leads come in. We've developed evidence. Leads aren't just phone calls.
Mm-hmm. He then goes on to talk more about the process of the leads and not much more about the glove or pair of gloves. And after the sheriff continues to talk about their process and how many leads have been generated, how many calls they've gotten, how much work they are doing, then we get to the questions of, but this has now been going on for almost 2 weeks at the time of this interview on the 13th, over 2 weeks on the time of me recording.
Are you close to finding this person?
We think we're getting there. We think we're getting closer.
Like what, a day, 2, 3? I mean, we're day 13 now.
I know, but you know what? Some of these cases go for months. Some of these cases can go for years. We're prepared that whatever that time is, we're going to continue fighting it. We're going to get there.
We're prepared. Some of these cases go on for months. Some of these cases go on for years. We're prepared. Are you close to finding someone? We think so. But remember, this can go on for years.
We will find this person. That we know.
So are you at that point where you think it could go on that long?
I don't rule out anything. It's like I say, these things come in highs and lows. We get a lead, we get really excited, we're way up here, and then something says, okay, that's not the right lead, and we go back down. Now we get another lead, and it's what keeps us motivated. You got all these cops out there that want to find her, and they get excited. I wish you could have been with me in that comm room or that with the FBI and watching all those agents and detectives get all energized and charged up when they thought they had, this could be it. And you see their...
And this is before the SWAT raid went down on Friday night. So I think he's talking about the Rio Rico detention and questioning. But it sounds like when they went into that, they're like, we think we have something, which also concerns me that they were so quickly able to say, that's not the person, and they were released just a few hours later. This gives me more concerns than answers, truly.
Faces, and then when they realize maybe not, look, they're tough guys, tough gals. They're going to get there.
What?
Which does not sound to me like they are there yet. And then as this interview wrapped up, before he did Countless others the same day, he was asked about a message for the community.
What is your message to the community that is saying 13 days on now and there's no suspect, no person of interest, no vehicle of interest?
We have over 400 cops out there working 24/7, every day, every night. Please call with every bit of information you can. Help us help Nancy. It really is just that. We can't do this alone. And so if you get a Ring request from Ring or somebody, please look at those things and send.
And they have sent out requests to the neighborhood through neighborhood apps and Ring and Nest looking for video or any doorbell cam, security camera focusing on cars between 10 p.m. January 11th and 1 a.m. January 12th, as well as 11 p.m. January 31st and 4 a.m. February 1st. And he goes on to ask for the public's help.
Somebody, please look at those things and send that to us. If you get a request from somebody knocking on your door, please help us with this.
Make sure they're law enforcement. And he finishes that interview saying, somebody knows this person, somebody has that information. And in other interviews, he actually referenced back to the last video Savannah Guthrie had put out saying somebody knows something in the video where she was asking for the public's help before the video released today. So where are we at now? Well, it seems that before all of the FBI warrant activity on Friday, the sheriff was still asking for the public's help. And by the end of the weekend, we have information that the glove that was recovered about 2 miles away from Nancy Guthrie's home does have a DNA profile, and they believe it is the same kind of glove seen in the Ring video. We have an additional video from Savannah Guthrie saying it's never too late to do the right thing, asking someone to bring her mom home. We have heard that there are 400 members of law enforcement working around the clock to try to find Nancy Guthrie. And with over 2 weeks in, we've seen a lot of activity. The Ring doorbell footage, I think, was a massive help in this case and is something that will push them towards finding who the person in that video is. If that was the only person at Nancy Guthrie's house that night, we do not know. And who that person is or where they might be, we do not know. But we do know that they have more information that are pushing towards finding who that person is and at least a general description. And I think the height information, what they're wearing, that is all going to be incredibly helpful. And if that does turn out to be a glove that ties back to a person who also matches that description, then we might see law enforcement again moving quickly on a better path. But if that comes back and doesn't hit within the CODA system and they have to go the route of IGG, that is going to take much longer. And in the mix of all of this, like put it on the fuckery docket, we have heard that there have been numerous more communications to TMZ saying, I know who the person is who did it, not saying that they were the person writing the letter who had Nancy Guthrie, but they know who it is and they wanted money. Harvey Levin from TMZ said that that was all turned over to the FBI. These are not being called ransom communications. I'm sure someone from the FBI is running them down to see if these are someone who has information or someone who is looking to make a profit on this case. But notice we have not heard anything else about a ransom note since Monday. The deadline on Monday passed. There has been no new information. There has been no new discussion about a ransom. And the thing that was always interesting to me about the ransom is that it did not come in close in time to when Nancy Guthrie went missing. That is always something that has been an asterisk for me that does not fit within that being a legitimate kidnap for ransom. That coming in so much later and going into media, it just doesn't fit for me. So it's something I'm keeping an eye on. And then the other communications coming in to TMZ saying, but I know who it is, give us money. We will see where the FBI goes with that. But anyone trying to perpetrate a hoax is going to be arrested like the other individual was who had their first court appearance. If you are interested, I will keep an eye on that as well, because I do think it will limit those types of hoaxes if it is publicly discussed that people will be arrested and prosecuted for it. It's not worth going to prison over. And just rounding out my thoughts, as we've been looking at this now for 2 weeks, and the news on this has been almost ever present. It is a constant feed of information, or that there's no information, or discussion about information, or no information. And I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. I will be keeping an eye on it. I sent out updates this week when they had detained someone and were questioning them. It was the first time we had seen that much movement in the case, so close in time to those videos coming out. And I sent that to you through the Lawnerd app. Also, we have some new things coming to the Lawnerd shop, and I will be sharing those with you in the Lawnerd app. So if you want to know before it goes live on stream, head to the Lawnerd app because we have new things coming. I think you will like them. The Lawnerd app is one of the first places you will hear about that. Lawnards, let's take a minute to thank our sponsor, OneSkin. A lot of you are asking what I am wearing, but it doesn't really matter if it doesn't start with healthy skin. And that has been my philosophy since my mom was yelling at me to wear sunscreen when I was at junior guards. So when you're asking what to put on your skin, OneSkin is where my skin routine begins. And not only do I love their face products, but also OneSkin Body is fantastic. What makes OneSkin different is that it's founded by a team of longevity researchers who are targeting the skin from the cellular process up. And that research led to OneSkin's OS1 proprietary peptide, which can slow skin aging at the source. And one of the things I love, it's refillable, but you don't have to just take my word for it. OneSkin has over 10,000 5-star reviews, so you can see for yourself. Born from over a decade of longevity research, OneSkin's OS1 peptide is proven to target the visible signs of aging, helping you unlock your healthiest skin now and as you age. For a limited time, try OneSkin at 15% off. I know. Using code Lawnerd at oneskin.co/Lawnerd. That's 15% off at oneskin.co with code Lawnerd. And after your purchase, if they ask how you heard about them, let them know it was the Emily Show. Let's get back to it. We do need to shift into the pop culture docket because I've been wanting to talk about this. And frankly, Dr. B is tired of hearing me talk about this because it's the Olympics. I enjoy the Olympics. I enjoy the unpredictability of sport. I enjoy the backstories. I enjoy the sports that I watch once every 4 years. I don't know what I think of like doubles luge. I like the memes. I don't know if there's ever going to be like a doubles skeleton. I don't understand. I don't know. But the Winter Olympics are so much fun. I love watching ice skating. I did catch up on ice skating this week. No spoilers, but it was a lot. But one of the sports I have always very much enjoyed watching in the Winter Olympics is curling. And this curling scandal, I want to know everything about. I cannot stop talking about. And how is the curling scandal with the F-bombs flying on the ice coming out of Team Canada? I know. So we are shifting gears to talk about pop culture docket for a minute. Because, oh, Canada, what are we doing? So if you are like, girl, what are you talking about? Okay, first, I love the sport of curling. It's one of those sports that I think everybody looks at the Olympics and it's like, that looks like something I could do. No, you can't. No, you can't. The curling is not something you can just go do, but I understand the vibes of like, I want to try that. I know. Curling looks fascinating. And this curling scandal, because curling seems like the kind of sport where you might be able to play with a beer in one hand, and I love that too. And it also seems like a sport where people genuinely chat with each other, enjoy each other. It seems to have a social component and be like frozen shuffleboard, but with way more skill involved. So for there to be a scandal and a cheating scandal to be popping off with Team Canada is wild to me. And so if you did not see all this go down, there is so much going on. And if you did see this going down, you might not have seen all of it because there's so much going down. So on Saturday, February 14th, Team Canada was playing Team Sweden men's curling. So much has happened since then. We got to go back to the beginning. I know it's only Sunday. And in that, the Swedish team accused the Canadian team of cheating by touching the stone after releasing it. And went to the refs. I'm going to link below a longer clip from NBC if you want to watch the team go to the refs and then they have a confrontation. NBC bleeps out the curse words. I have some clips for you of the internet that thank you to our sponsors. We're going to play and hope for the best. And I'm not worried about the expletives, but the other things. But it leads to an expletive-rich confrontation on the ice over this. And it seems that the Swedish team might have suspected this was going on because there's video of it. And it's a video angle that aren't the Olympic cameras because it was Swedish media that filmed it. And the member of Team Sweden that was telling the member of Team Canada, bro, you're cheating, said, I'll show you the tape after the match. Well, Team Canada is now accusing Team Sweden of illegally taping them. However, it was not recorded by the team. It was recorded by the media. I mean, it seems that it was recorded by Swedish media, but now Team Canada is accusing Team Sweden of improperly recording and of setting them up with the recording. But if there's a recording and you're not doing anything, then the recording doesn't show anything. So we need to take a look because the memes on the internet, have you seen these? The memes on the internet are everywhere. But in curling, the handles are now electronic, which I didn't realize. And so you have to release the stone before it crosses the liney thing, the hog line. Yeah, the liney thing. You have to release the handle before then. And it looks to me like when Team Canada releases it, he goes down and pushes it with his finger on the stone, the granite part of the stone, which you are not allowed to do. And then when he's confronted about it, just tells the team member of Team Sweden to fuck off. And it's wild. So we're going to take a look. So before this all goes down, the team member from Sweden walks by Mark Kennedy from Canada and says, so we're just like touching the stone now. That's me paraphrasing. And that starts a confrontation between the two of them where he says, you touched it, I'll show it to you. And that's when the cursing begins. And this is actually the only thing in this game that he was spoken to about because in curling, they do not do video instant replay. So the refs call stands. The line we're talking about is this green line right here. Let's take a look at this confrontation.
I haven't done it once. You can fuck off.
You haven't done it once?
I haven't done it once.
Okay. I'll show you a video after the game.
I'll show you the video after the game. And then we see what the internet has slow-moed everywhere. The release of the handle and the finger. Book. Emily, we're going to another angle? Yeah, we're going to a whole nother angle. In slow-mo. Because A, you need the slow-mo, but B, the camera was right at the angle. What does that look like to you? You tell me. Do you think when he released the stone, he just went boink, boink with his finger? You tell me. You tell me what you think, Lawnards. Look, we can't go out and solve crimes, but you know what we can't get to the bottom of is this man pointed the stone with his finger. That I feel like we can all get to the bottom of. Emily, do you want to see another angle of the confrontation just because? Yeah.
It's a couple. It's a couple.
Who? I haven't done it once. You can fuck off.
You haven't done it once?
I haven't done it once.
Okay.
I'll
I'll show you a video after the game.
How about you walking around on my peel?
And now we've got Team Canada saying that they were being illegally recorded. But it also seems that Team Sweden knows that it's being recorded, which makes me wonder, have they seen him do this before? Why were they on the lookout for this? And when else has this happened?
Last day I'm dancing around the house here. How about that? Come on, Oscar, just fuck
Want me to
off.
show you a video?
I don't
Oh boy.
give a shit.
You
They
don't
were
know
standing
that?
here, they didn't call it.
He said the ref's standing here and he didn't call it. He says, I don't give a shit. You can fuck off. He was spoken to about his language. Again, curling does not use video replay. However, Canada went on to win that match on Saturday. Then the women's Canadian curling team is accused of doing the exact same thing. This is coming to us from people.com. Canadian curlers again accused of cheating at Winter Olympics with same controversial technique as the men's team. This was from earlier in the day, Sunday, February 15th. People.com says Olympic controversy continues for Team Canada. The Canadian women's curling team was accused of committing the same violation that the men of Team Canada were accused of by Team Sweden, which sparked a cheating scandal. Rachel Homan of the Canada team was called for double touching, which is when an athlete touches the curling stone after releasing it in their match against Team Switzerland on Saturday, February 14th. After the violation was called by officials, Homan, 36, denied that she committed the foul. Quote, like absolutely not, 0% chance, she said. However, when the teammates questioned officials on why the call wasn't eligible for review, they were reportedly told to trust the umpire per the Post. The team could also repeatedly be heard using expletives in their group huddle before the match started up again. They did lose the stone that was double touched. It was pulled out of play, and the Swiss team defeated Canada 8-7. But it doesn't stop there, because on Sunday, the Olympics actually made a change to the way they are refereeing curling because of the cheating scandal. The dates are getting confused a little bit because some of the dates are being reported as it's being watched here, and some of the dates are being reported as it's happening in Italy. So just know there are some time zone confusions here. But after 2 days of cheating accusations against Team Canada from both Team Sweden and Team Switzerland, it appears something is finally being done about it. In efforts to address the multiple claims of double touching of the stone by the Canadians in matches on Friday and Saturday, World Curling instituted the use of 2 umpires to actively monitor deliveries near the hog line. Just 24 hours after announcing the protocol, World Curling released another statement on Sunday stating that 2 umpires were being removed after 2 rocks were pulled by the umpires on Saturday. They implemented a rule change to add 2 umpires, and then they said, no, we're not going to have 2 umpires, but rocks were pulled on Saturday during competition because of the umpires, and they're still in like round robin competition. It goes on to say, quote, following a meeting with representatives of the competing national Olympic committees, an update in the stone monitoring protocol has been confirmed, beginning with the evening session on Sunday, February 15th, the statement read. It goes on to say this change in protocol will see the 2 umpires who had previously been actively monitoring athlete deliveries remain available in the field of play, but will now only monitor athlete deliveries at the request of competing teams. The umpires, when requested, will monitor deliveries for a minimum of 3 ends. It goes on to say that the new Olympic rule change comes shortly after Canada claims that Sweden had been illegally filming not only their team, but also several others from a sport that's only supposed to be accessible by the Olympic broadcasting services. Quote, they actually had videos for the Italian team as well, Team Canada coach Paul Webster said. So they've got people up there videotaping, and that whole thing was premeditated and planned. So where do we stand with all of this? The refereeing of curling seems to be ongoing and evolving. Team Canada says that they've done nothing wrong and that actually this was a premeditated recording of them and other teams by Sweden. There was no penalty for the Canadian men's team, but there was a warning about the language used. Then the Canadian women's team did have a stone pulled in their game against Switzerland. And the same thing happened in England versus Germany, where Britain was accused of double touching the stone. And now we have the rule continuing to evolve, saying that we will have umpires double checking the line if it's requested by the other team. But it seems that a sport that is, to my outsider perspective, fairly scandal-free, having a massive explosion of scandal at the Olympics. And the thing that is unclear to me that I very much want to know is what led up to Sweden keeping an eye on this, because it doesn't seem that it came out of the blue. And now Canada is saying that there's illegal taping, but I still think the denials are a little rough, though, when we do take a look at the video. Because look at it. It flick. Is this something that has been brewing in curling before this Olympics? Also, the US is doing fairly well in curling. So keep an eye on the Olympics. Enjoy watching. Let me know what sports you are enjoying this Olympics. There was other Olympic controversy we're going to talk about on a members only live. Some of you probably know what that one is, but don't worry, we'll get there. Thank you, Law Nerds, for being here through the tougher topics and sometimes bringing in, well, lighter topics for us. It's going to devolve into a national disaster, it seems, because Canada feels like they're being targeted for being Canadian and they're pissed off. Sweden is pissed off for people flicking the stone, and everyone in curling seems angry. So it's very consequential to them. But on the scale of things that we cover here, not the heaviest topic that we cover. And also, Emily always says, do not internet sleuth, but go ahead and tell me what you saw in that slow-mo. Did he touch it? Did he not touch it? I want to know what you think. This we will try to solve. So thank you for being with me, Law Nerds. And if you want to know about all of the new things coming to the Law Nerd Shop, make sure you have the Law Nerd app at lawnerd.app.com. I appreciate you. I will see you on stream. And remember, we are getting ready for day-to-day trial coverage of the Corey Richins trial. So if you are ready, we're almost there. They have a jury picked. It was faster than I thought with all those motions. And opening statements are going to begin a week from today after this goes live on February 23rd. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a Law Nerd. I will see you in the chat soon. Have a good one. Bye. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss updates on your favorite cases, you're going to need the Law Nerd app at lawnerd.app.com. That way you can stay in the loop on the cases that matter most to you, and you never know when you're going to catch feelings for a new case. So make sure you get it for free on iOS and Android. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a Law Nerd.